This is Building Humans, sponsored by Al Mahaba Foundation and Dar El Kalima Publishing. Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're going to try something a little different.
Oh,
We're going to try and rewrite the history of the 20th century in, I don't know, 15 minutes. Or at least look at the footnotes everyone else seems to have ignored.
like that, the footnotes.
Because, when we talk about the last 100 years, we usually frame it with a very specific story. We call it the century of rights.
And in many ways it was, rightfully so. It was a century of immense correction.
Exactly. It feels like humanity finally woke up. You had the labor movement, which was really the workers standing up and demanding to be seen as a person, not a cog in a machine.
Mm-hmm.
You had the women's rights movement, which was, let's be honest, giving a voice to half the human species, the civil rights movement. It feels like we spent 100 years just systematically finding everyone we'd locked out and finally opening the door.
We codified the idea of inclusion. Rights became the standard language of our civilization.
But, and this is the massive but that drives our sources for today, we missed a spot.
A big one.
A huge one. According to Maria Montessori's analysis, especially in her book Education and Peace, we sort of patted ourselves on the back a little too early. Because there is a whole nation living among us right now.
A population of millions.
Millions. And this nation has no vote. It has no union, no representative in parliament. It has absolutely no say in the laws that govern its day-to-day life.
And they aren't in some distant land. They're in our living rooms.
We're talking about the child.
We are talking about the child.
Now, I have to be honest, my first reaction when I read this was, come on, we don't marginalize children. We obsess over them. We have entire industries built around them.
Right.
We have laws protecting them. How can they be forgotten?
It's a cognitive dissonance, isn't it? Because emotionally, the child is the center of the family. But Montessori asks us to look past the emotion for a second and look at the politics of the situation. She uses a very specific, almost haunting title for the child.
What's that?
She calls them the forgotten citizen.
The forgotten citizen.
Think about that word,
Yeah.
citizen. A citizen has agency, right? They have rights that are inherent, not just favors that we grant them.
Okay.
Montessori argues that while we've built a society for adults, for our transit, our work, our laws, we haven't actually built one for the human being in their most formative years. We look at a 3-year-old and we don't see a citizen.
We see a future citizen.
Exactly. That's the critical distinction.
So we're basically telling them, you don't matter right now. You're in the waiting room of life. You'll matter when you can pay taxes.
Precisely. And because we see them as future people, not current people, we strip them of their social rights. In fact, the source uses a metaphor that is, well, it's incredibly confronting. She compares the child's status to that of a refugee.
A refugee. Wow, that is a heavy word. It implies displacement, a lack of safety.
Well, just think about the sociology of a refugee for a moment. What is a refugee? It's someone forced to live in a country where they don't speak the language. They don't get the customs. And crucially, the infrastructure, the very layout of the land, is not designed for them. They have to follow the laws of the host country, but they have absolutely no voice in making them.
And when you put it that way, it's chilling. The child enters our world, the adult world, and they just have to survive in it.
They are, in her words, strangers in their own home. And like a refugee, they're often treated with this mix of pity and, let's be honest, annoyance. We feed them, we clothe them, but do we let them build? Do we let them govern themselves?
Yeah.
No. A refugee in a camp might be physically safe, but they are not free.
And this brings up a really important point in the text, because I think a lot of parents listening might be saying, hold on, I protect my child. I would die for my child. How can you say I treat them like a refugee?
And that's where Montessori makes this brilliant distinction between two types of care. She talks about biological preservation versus social existence.
Okay, let's unpack that. Biological preservation versus social existence.
We have become absolute masters of biological preservation.
Yeah.
We have pediatricians, vaccines, car seats, nutrition plans. We protect the biological life of the child fiercely.
Sure.
But, and this is the hard pill to swallow, we also protect the biological life of our pets. We have laws against animal cruelty. You can't starve a dog. You'll go to jail.
So we treat them as a protected species, but not as a participating member of society.
Exactly. We preserve the body, but we suffocate the spirit. We deny them their social existence. We treat the child as a problem to be solved, or maybe a guest to be managed. We just assume that until they're adults, they have no real work to do. But Montessori says the child has a massive job.
Which is?
The job of building the man. The child is the laborer who constructs the adult. And this brings us to another one of these metaphors in the book, one that's both beautiful and tragic. She compares the child to a miner.
A miner. Like underground.
Yes, think about a miner. They work in the dark, deep underground in conditions no one on the surface really sees or cares about.
Right.
But they bring up the gold. They bring up the diamonds.
I see where you're going with this.
The child works in the darkness of the unconscious mind. They are toiling away day after day, literally extracting language, movement, personality from nothing. They are building the gold that is the human spirit.
And we, the adults, are just sitting on the surface enjoying the gold.
We enjoy the finished adult, but we treat the miner like a nuisance. We interrupt their work. We dictate their hours. We don't give them the right tools. We just demand the product.
That's a profound shift in perspective. We aren't the bosses. We're the beneficiaries of their labor.
Exactly. And because we don't respect this labor, we create an environment that actively gets in their way. This is where we move from the political idea to the physical reality of our homes.
Right.
If the child is a refugee or a minor, what does their workplace actually look like?
Well, if I look around my house, it just looks like a house.
It looks like a house for you. But Montessori invites us to do a little physical experiment. She calls it acknowledging the world of giants.
The world of giants. I love that imagery.
I want you and everyone listening to imagine you are 3 years old. You're about 3 feet tall. Mentally, I want you to kneel down in your own kitchen. Just get on your knees. Now look around. What do you see?
I see. A lot of table legs, the underside of chairs, dust bunnies. If I look up, the counter is like a cliff edge. I have no idea what's on top of it.
Okay. Now, you have a simple human need. Your hands are sticky. You want to wash them?
Yeah.
How do you do that in the world of giants?
I can't. The sink is. That might as well be on the roof. It's 3 feet above my head. I have to find a giant, an adult, to come and lift me up.
You're completely dependent.
Yeah.
Now, you want to leave the room. You go to the door. The handle is a smooth, round knob designed for a large hand. It's at your eye level. Can you turn it?
No way. I can't get a grip. And even if I could, the door's probably too heavy. I'm trapped.
You want to sit down. The chair is a mountain you have to climb. You want to help set the table. The plates are in a cabinet near the ceiling, and they're too heavy for you anyway.
So my entire existence, every single interaction is defined by one phrase. I can't.
I can't. Or I need help. Now, just imagine the psychological impact of that. The environment itself is constantly broadcasting a signal to the child's mind. It's screaming, "You are weak. You are incapable. You do not belong here.
Wow.
This is not your home. You're just a guest."
And that has to be incredibly frustrating. I mean, I went to a hotel and the toilet was 7 feet up the wall. I wouldn't just be confused. I'd be furious.
You'd be in a rage. And this is the light bulb moment for so many parents. A lot of what we call naughty behavior or destructiveness is really just the desperate frustration of a citizen struggling to survive in a city built for giants.
Can you give me an example? How do we misinterpret their struggle?
The classic one is the spilled water scenario.
Yeah.
A child's thirsty. They want to drink. They try to pour water from a pitcher. But the pitcher holds 2 liters. It's heavy. The handle is thick, designed for a grown man's hand.
Right.
The child tries to lift it. Their little wrist gives out, and water everywhere.
And the parent yells, "Why are you so clumsy?"
Exactly. We blame the victim. The child isn't clumsy. The child is capable. The tool was wrong. We set them up to fail, and then we scold them for it.
Which creates this cycle of incompetence. The child starts to believe it. I guess I am clumsy. I guess I am stupid. And so they just stop trying.
Or they fight back. They scream. They kick the door they can't open. And we call it a temper tantrum. But what it really is a protest. It's a civil rights protest by the forgotten citizen.
This is uncomfortable to hear because I think every parent tries their best. We don't build our houses to be mean. We do it. Well, we think we do it out of love. We baby-proof so they don't get hurt.
And no one doubts the love. The love is real. But Montessori challenges us to look deeper at the motivation behind our methods. She introduces a concept called the mask of love.
The mask of love. That sounds almost deceptive.
It's a form of unconscious self-deception. We hide our own convenience behind the mask of upbringing or education. We say, "I'm keeping you in the high chair for your safety." But often the truth is, "I'm keeping you in the high chair because I don't want to chase you while I eat."
Oof.
Yeah.
That hits home.
We stop the child from running, not because it's bad for them, but because we're afraid they'll break the expensive vase. We silence the child, not because they need quiet, but because we are tired.
It's the sleep battle, isn't it? That's the classic example.
It's the ultimate power struggle. The adult decides, It is 7:30 p.m. It is now bedtime.
Go to sleep.
But sleep is a biological function. You can't force a biological function on command. Imagine if I walked in here right now and ordered you to be hungry. Could you do it?
No, of course not.
But we do this to children constantly. We force them to sleep when we need a break. We force them to eat when we are hungry. We impose our will absolutely. And because the power dynamic is so completely skewed, Montessori uses a very harsh, very political term for the adult in this scenario.
What's that?
She calls the adult the dictator.
The dictator. Wow, that is a loaded word.
It implies tyranny. But look at the structure. A dictator is an authority you can't appeal to. If the parent says no, that's the law. There's no Supreme Court for the child.
Right, no arbitration.
And when the dictator suppresses the child, they aren't just hurting their feelings. They're crushing something vital. They're crushing what she calls the spiritual embryo.
I want to make sure we define that properly, because spiritual embryo can sound mystical, but she treats it almost like a biological process.
It's a biological fact for her. Think of a physical embryo in the womb. It follows a strict internal blueprint, right? Week 4, the heart beats. Week 8, the fingers form. You can't rush it. You can't tell the fetus, hey, grow a liver today because I'm busy next week.
Nature has a schedule.
Well, the child after birth is a spiritual embryo. They're still building the mind, the will, the personality, and they have an internal blueprint. Sensitive periods. Times when they must move. Times when they have to focus on tiny details.
And the dictator steps in and says, stop making that noise, or sit still.
And we interrupt the construction. We are fighting an unconscious war against the child's own development. The result, we get what Montessori calls mutilated men.
Mutilated men.
Adults who are dependent. Adults who lack initiative. Adults who are full of suppressed anger. If you spend your first 6 years being told, you can't, and let me do it for you, you don't magically become a confident innovator at age 20. You become a follower. You look for a new dictator.
It connects parenting and politics in a way that's actually terrifying. If we raise children under a dictatorship, we are literally training them to accept dictatorships.
Exactly. She uses another metaphor here, the palace on a volcano.
The palace on a volcano.
We build our civilization, our palace, on the assumption that everything is fine. But underneath, in the foundation, in the childhood of man, there is a volcano of suppressed anger and broken spirits. And eventually that volcano erupts. The eruption is war. It's social conflict.
So if we want to save the palace, we have to fix the foundation. We have to stop being dictators. But what's the alternative? I mean, we can't just let 3-year-olds run wild and play with knives.
No, and that's the common misunderstanding. The opposite of dictatorship isn't chaos. It's citizenship. It's recognizing the social rights of the child.
So how do you give a toddler social rights?
By constructing the environment. If the current world is a world of giants, we have a moral duty to build a world of the child right inside it.
This is where the little furniture comes in.
Yes, but it's not about interior design. It's about liberty. It means light furniture a child can actually move. It means low sinks so they can wash their own hands. Hooks at their eye level. Clothes they can fasten themselves.
It sounds so simple, but you're saying the impact is profound.
It changes everything. When you give a child a small pitcher they can actually lift, you're not just giving them a drink. You're giving them ownership. You're telling them you are competent.
And the child stops asking for help.
They stop asking to be served. Montessori discovered that the deep inner cry of the child, the true desire of the forgotten citizen, is not help me. It is teach me to do it myself.
Teach me to do it myself. That is such a powerful reframing. We think they want to be babied, but they actually want to be capable.
Society thinks children only want to play. Montessori found they actually want to work. They crave functional independence. When a child is allowed to sweep the floor with a tiny broom, or dress themselves, or peel a banana, the naughty behavior, it just vanishes.
Because the frustration is gone. The refugee finally has a passport.
The refugee becomes a citizen. The minor is given a lamp, and suddenly the dictator can resign. The parent stops being a policeman and becomes a guide. The war ends.
And that is where peace begins.
It's the only place peace can begin. You can't build a peaceful world with adults who grew up feeling helpless and oppressed. You have to start with children who learned independence and respect from the moment they could walk.
It really creates a sense of responsibility. We're not just raising kids, we were building the architecture of the future human.
Peace doesn't start with treaties signed by old men in suits. It starts by stopping the war against the forgotten citizen in our own living rooms. We have to stop being giants.
So if you're listening to this, maybe just take a moment today. Kneel down. Check the view from 3 feet up. You might realize you've been living in a fortress and didn't even know it.
And that realization, that's the first step toward a peace treaty.
Now, we've focused a lot on the environment today, but there's a lingering question. What happens when that child who was suppressed grows up? If we don't fix this, what kind of adult do we produce?
That is the terrifying question. Montessori suggests we create an adult who is technologically brilliant but morally stunted. We create a split personality.
A split personality.
Next time, we're going to dive into this concept she calls moral schizophrenia. Why is it that modern man can travel to the moon and split the atom, but we still act like cavemen when it comes to solving our conflicts?
Why do we have a sophisticated science of war but absolutely no science of peace?
That is the root of our modern crisis.
That sounds like a fascinating, if maybe a little ominous, follow-up to really grapple with these concepts. The forgotten citizen, the spiritual embryo. You really need to go to the source. We strongly encourage you to read Education and Peace. It's available through our sponsor, Dar El Kalima Publishing. It reads less like a parenting manual and more like a manifesto for a new world.
It's the blueprint we need.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Remember, the way we treat the smallest among us determines the future for all of us. Host, speaker, and expert speaker. Love for all, service for everyone.